Today on the Future Podcast, we have Isaac from Synesis One, one of the OG AI Solana projects. Welcome to the podcast, Isaac.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, we've been talking online for quite a bit, but never got the chance to.
We've been flirting for a while. Finally got the Calendly link to you.
Yeah.
So before we jump into stuff about Synesis One, why don't you give the good people a background on yourself? What got you into crypto? What got you into AI, really? A lot to know.
Yeah, so I started off my career in IT consulting. I did that for a year, and then I jumped straight into startups. So I've been working in very early stage startups, all pre-Series A, been in digital health, mobile gaming, digital media, and then AI. And then I took a year off in 2020 to go to business school to get an MBA. And then after that, I came back to the US. I worked in Silicon Valley for a year doing, it was like a sort of a bridgeway into crypto in that like I was at a Web2 company and they were transitioning into Web3 and I was doing product management there. And then in late 2021, early 2022, I decided to leave and join Synesis, which was being run by some of the founders that I've worked with in the past, especially in the AI space. So I made the jump and I've been there ever since.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about your role at Synesis One, maybe a little bit about the founding team there, and just a little bit like a backstory for us.
Yeah, so currently my role is the CEO of Synesis. The founders are the same founders that I've worked with at the other AI startup. This is a Web2 AI startup. It's still in operation. We're still, running that company. That company is also going through some very exciting growth period, especially, these days with the whole AI industry exploding. So we've been working together for, I would say, probably about 10 years now. And so like
Holy
there's a
shit.
lot of, yeah, there's a lot of camaraderie and trust and we've over those years we've really learned how to work well together. So sort of doing that now.
Is there any symbiosis between the two companies? Can you tell us what the other company is?
Yeah, so the other company is called Mind AI. What they do is we have a very proprietary sort of, I guess, AI engine, and it's in the realm of what you call symbolic AI. So they call symbolic AI sort of like the good old-fashioned AI, where it's not a machine learning or a neural network based AI. It's more of logic based. So like I hate giving this analogy, but it because it seems too simple, but it's sort of like a decision tree in a sense. So what it does is it tries to mimic human logical reasoning, and therefore all of the inferences that the model does is fully transparent. So you can see exactly why the AI made the decisions that it made, unlike a black box system that is most of the AI today. And so we're at this space where people call it explainable AI because it is a traceable, transparent system. And then a lot of the leading researchers within AI all predict that in order for us to get to artificial general intelligence, we will probably need a hybrid between machine learning based AI and then a more of a symbolic based AI. So I think there will come a time very soon, probably in the next 5 years, where the whole realm of explainable AI will be very, very hot. And so I think we're pretty well aligned. So that being said, that's the Web2 AI company that we're operating. Synesis is very sort of related in the sense that we're pretty much tackling the data layer of AI. So the whole concept behind Synesis was born while we were working on Mind AI. So the whole premise was that, okay, like for Mind AI, we need to source a lot of natural language data. And what's the best way for us to do that? What's the best way for us to get a very robust set of data at a very cheap or money efficient way? And we thought the best solution would probably be crowdsourcing. And so we sort of spun it off into its own thing, started Synesis, and
The Kanon NFTs.
yeah, so Canon NFTs that sort of became this entry ticket into the system for people to participate and earn money. So right now, what's happening is all of the clients that come through our Web2 entity, Mind AI, is pretty much utilizing Synesis for all of the data that's needed to power the AI.
That's good. All right, before we go forward, I want to take a step back. And you said something that I thought was interesting. Not an AI expert, more of an AI speculator. And you talked about, yeah, you talked about traceable. And I had read some posts on crypto Twitter about like the risk in data and not knowing where the source comes from, because people get used to you're no longer Googling for something, you're using ChatGPT for something, and then you're led to believe that this is the best of what's out there in the world. And when you said traceable, it was one of the things that I had read about what is necessary. So I'm happy to hear you talk about like being able to prove where the computers are getting the information from and track it back. What is that like? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I think there's different, I guess, layers behind this. So, for example, when you look at LLMs today, you know that they've scraped so much natural language content from the available publicly available web in order for them to feed that into the LLM to train it. Even the open source models, you don't know exactly what data it's been trained on. All of that is, although models are open source, the data itself isn't open source, so you don't know. When it comes to, I guess, machine learning and neural network-based systems, not only is that sort of obscured, the whole decision-making process itself is obscured in that it's just a bunch of statistical computations that lead to a result. The importance of traceability lies in, let's say, the AI made a decision on, I don't know, the domain of medicine or healthcare. And of course, if you're a doctor using AI as a tool, like it's great to have sort of a second opinion from an AI. But at the same time, it's very necessary for you as a doctor to know why it made that decision. So you should be able to trace back exactly what led to the AI making the decision that it made, saying, okay, like if the AI thinks the diagnosis X, then what are the symptoms that it took into account? Like, where did it actually learn this? Like, is it from the textbooks that were or medical research, or was it just some blog online? So all of that kind of factors, like at first most people wouldn't recognize the importance of it, but when you start getting into bigger, more sort of critical use cases, whether it's dealing with human lives or financial transactions and whatnot, these become really important.
Absolutely. And so, and I obviously done a lot of snooping on your guys' project, and the phrase came up, human logic intelligence, and you brought up like logic. And I feel like the key part that maybe not a lot of people understand about Synesis One is like you're involving people more so than just like the LLM. So can you talk about like the bridge there? And that's
Yeah,
like the Synesis layer on top, right?
yeah. So I would say most people, even people working in tech, if you're not in the deep within the AI space, they don't realize how much human labor goes into the whole creation of AI. Like, for example, for ChatGPT to get to where it was when it launched, like they needed a lot of reinforcement learning with human feedback. So humans going through all the outputs and sort of giving their human feedback. Same thing when it comes to data preparation. In order to train models, you need a lot of manual labor. Let's take computer vision, for example. Like you need people to go through thousands of images and tag the images. If it's an image of a car, then you need people to go through and tag each image with a car. If it's not a car, then you tag it as not a car. And so that's the whole process behind preparing the data to train these models. And a lot of money and time goes into that. And so it's a funny thing because people start talking about, okay, like our AI is so good now that we can start creating synthetic data and have AI do its own sort of data cleanup and whatnot. And to a certain degree, that's true. And software has gotten to a point where they could really help with that process. But going forward, that shows you just how much more valuable human input and human data will be. Because in the very, very near future, we're going to run out of actual human created content online for these companies to scrape and train their models. And when you start training your models on AI created content, then it normally leads to what they call a model degradation, which is just less performant models. And so then, companies are going to start paying a lot of money for human created content and then also human feedback in order for models to get even better than where they are now.
Interesting. You can only put a t-shirt through the wash so many times before it comes out into just strands and fibers and
Yeah,
faded color. For the
exactly.
layman's out there in the group. That's interesting. Okay. Tell me or tell us more about the Kanon NFTs. Like, what was the inspiration for the single word generation? Do you guys have plans to go multiple word to expand past the 10,000 collection? Give me a little bit of that.
Yeah, so initially when we created the Canon NFTs, we wanted to, we had this whole vision of making it into a multiple collection, multiple language, and so on. And the whole sort of vision came from the fact that we were working on an AI that dealt with natural language. So when we created this first version, which we called the Aquarius collection, it consisted of 10,000 of the some of the most commonly used English words. And the whole thesis behind it was that, okay, because we have this AI engine that uses natural language that are used to generate revenue by serving our clients, let's have some kind of a fun sort of passive income system where the if you hold a word that's more commonly used or more frequently used by the clients, then we'll kick back more of that the revenue generated. So we started off with that model, and right now we have a very similar system, although it's not based on the usage by clients. We're testing out different ways. Where the very first month we did it with like Google ranking, so whatever came up on Google ranking as the most commonly used. Now we're doing it based off of the words that appear on some of the data campaigns that we run on our platform. And
Smart.
so, either way, they're generating passive income. And the most important thing is that the NFT staking is required for someone to come onto the our train to earn platform and start training or submitting their data in order to earn. One big reason for this NFT gate is back in I think 2022, like summer of 2023, we had a completely open system when we ran our beta. So there were no gates of any kind. Anyone can come and participate in the campaigns. And then this, as we grew, this quickly became an issue because people were coming and spamming the system, and there was a lot of botting going on. So when we when we decided to launch on mainnet, we introduced the NFT gate, which really cut down all that malicious activity by, I would say, 90-95%.
That's awesome. I didn't realize this until I saw a post from you guys a couple months ago that there's like certain Easter eggs inside the
Oh
NFTs
yeah,
of
yeah.
of cheeky words and things like that.
Yeah, those are fun.
I'm on your page right now, and like the number one listed for 15 Soul was abstinence, and I'm zooming in. Act or practice of refraining from indulging an appetite. That's fun. There's a little more there, but I'll leave that behind. No, that's really cool. I think it was like a really novel and good way to do the natural language. And so, for anybody listening, I think it's worthwhile looking into. You said the Aquarius was the first one, and you said you talked about like other languages. Is there no kind of decision right now to do another collection? You're sort of pausing to see what the market churns out and what it wants.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at right now. But I mean,
That makes sense.
it's always an option. Um, but if it's not required or necessary, then we wouldn't do it.
That's fair. Okay, good question for you coming up. I saw that you guys had a little partnership coming with Dither, and that's one that I paid attention to too. And when I heard you talking about, the need for people involved in training AI, I kind of like I had looked into Dither, and I know that their goal is to move towards like sports betting predictions, and I'm like, wow, what a perfect place where that couldn't be more true, where there's a lot of people out there that would love to be incentivized to shed their knowledge on sports betting and stuff like that. And so I'm curious, like, if you can tell me a little bit more about that collaboration.
Yeah, so when I first talked to Madness from Dither,
Yep.
we had such a good conversation because we were both, I mean, we were live with our product running actual campaigns that are used by real companies, and then he was building out his own products, which were like the Sierra bots and whatnot. And then he actually shared about like the future plans, like he wants to do more creating actual time series foundation models that can be applied to different domains and whatnot. And so the conversation was very, very. I wouldn't say it wasn't it wasn't really technical, but it was deep in the whole AI sense. So, and like we were right off the bat, we knew we could work together. And one of the things that we talked about, even before the sports betting thing, was in creating a model that can predict, I guess, sort of meme coin movements, they definitely need data such as like, do people find a certain type of token logo interesting? Do they find the description of the token interesting? Do they like the ticker? And these kind of things can be very easily crowdsourced, right? So that kind of stuff, we thought, okay, it's perfect for both of our communities to sort of provide that kind of data, which is almost pretty much like a survey data that could be
Mm-hmm.
used
Mm-hmm.
in this real sort of prediction model that they could build. And then he during the conversation he shared that part of the inspiration for him to get started was trying to predict or help with his sports betting sort of hobby. And
Right.
that was super interesting because we are actually sort of they're not a client yet, but we have a very good relationship with the sports book operator based, like he's operating the biggest sports book of North, or no, not North, South America. And he's been wanting to work with us for a wide variety of stuff, but one of the main things is to have some kind of AI assisted sort of line management system. And we actually approached Ocean Protocol for this because we know that they run a lot of these sort of Kaggle like competitions, and they also have this price prediction model called Predictor that's sort of new. So we thought, oh, this is really cool. Maybe we can work with Ocean Protocol for this. But the initial feedback was that time series wasn't really used for sports betting. And so to me, I didn't know that you could utilize time series for this. And then when I was talking to Mattness, he mentioned, oh, that's exactly what he was trying to use it for. So I think there could be some really interesting things that we can work together in the future. That's very impactful for not only like just the Web3 space in terms of, let's say, meme coin prediction or price prediction models, but in the realm of the sports betting industry.
That's awesome. No, I'd love to see you guys working together on that. It brings me a lot of joy. I think like a couple of points is like the meme coin casino,
Yeah.
hotly disputed, hate it or love it, it doesn't matter. Like it's kind of here to stay, and it's probably going to be one of those things that sticks around in perpetuity as generations come and go, and memes are forever. Like, are they all going to stick around? No. Is it going to be a hot ball of money? Yes. But it's similar in essence to the sports betting side, which is another really perfect use case for crypto. The
Yeah.
ability to gamble, to predict, and AI kind of ties into that. I was seeing, what was it? Sporty Bookie on your guys' Twitter page, and it was giving like the rundown
Oh yeah,
of
yeah.
being able to like ask questions about Tottenham versus what was it, Wolverhampton,
Yeah,
and like going
yeah.
back and forth to find out your best predictions. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That shows a very, I guess, um, that shows the integration between an ML system that just does pure statistical computation plus our system where we take into account different sort of, I guess, what humans would normally think about when they're making the decision of like, okay, if these two teams are playing, what are some of the first things that you ask in order for you to sort of try to make out who's going to win? Then you're like, okay, who's the star player? Is the best player injured? Is the best player playing? And all these factors. So it gives the AI a little bit more context in order for them to predict better.
I like that. Honestly, I'm very bullish on the idea of human intersected AI,
Hmm.
especially if you just go purely from the standpoint that we're still quite a few years out from like real AI. This intermediary that still needs our help. I'm
Yeah,
bullish on that.
totally.
Okay, I had like I seen you guys been doing a lot of partnering. Instead of just kind of going one by one on all of these, I kind of want to give the floor to you and like ask you, what are you most excited for Synesis's future and kind of like the broad AI scope? I know like a lot of companies come on and make all these promises about being AI, and for those that are actually building real utility projects, it makes it hard because the mind share goes away. So, where do you see a Synesis going, and kind of like what are you most excited about?
Yeah, I think it's totally true what you said, especially like late last year when AI and crypto narratives started booming. Like you see so many new projects coming up, raising a bunch of money. It's similar to, the whole ICO craze. There's a lot of money being thrown around. And it's sort of it's like twofold. Like in one sense, like I like it because I see there's a lot of sort of new initiatives, new pushes towards creating this decentralized ecosystem of AI tooling. On the other hand, like I know for a fact that 95% of these projects are not going to be existing anymore in the next year or two. Um, so in that sense, it's like for us, like we try to focus on creating something very real. That's why over the past 2 years, we've created the actual product that functions. Now that the product is live and functioning, one of the main things that we're focusing on this year is the whole sales process of onboarding new clients. In that sense, like we're very excited because right now we're doing a POC with the government of India. So if the
Whoa.
POC goes well, then it will be going into an actual commercial contract with the government. So government contracts are huge.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we actually signed an MOU with a Korean conglomerate company. I won't reveal the name yet because we haven't made a big announcement or PR push yet. So there's some alpha. So
Nice,
that's gonna
man.
be another big project. And then the reason I came back to LA for instead of being at Token 2049 was we got set up with a pretty big gaming company out here in LA for a potential like data annotation type job. So we're gaining a lot of traction in that field, and that's why it's pretty exciting. And not only that, I think just what's happening within the AI space is extremely fast paced, and you're seeing innovation every day. So being in this space is so unpredictable, because you don't know where it's going to go in like not only like 1 year, but like within 6 months, where are we going to be? And one thing clear to us is that human involvement is always going to be a huge part of it. Data is the fuel that runs AI. So data is always going to grow with the growth of AI industry. We see the human input is also going to be even more valuable for the reasons I mentioned before. And yeah, that's why it's so exciting. I think we're perfectly positioned for the next, not even 1 or 2 years, but 5, 10 years.
That's the Boner City moment I was waiting for.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And I know, and the users probably don't. What's a POC and an MOU?
Oh yeah. So POC is proof of concept. So it's
Ah,
pretty much when we discuss like what they need in terms of their technical needs, and then we
yeah,
do a small scale project to show, okay, this is possible to do. Or if it's not,
awesome.
then you wouldn't be able to do it. MOU is just memorandum of understanding. So it's like a contract, but before a contract. So it's like a lesser formal contract. It's just saying, okay, let's do this. But most of the time, MOUs are non-binding. But
Hmm.
then the one we signed is a type where it's like a fully binding MOU. So it's pretty firm.
Nice. I'll have to tell my mom and dad I just got my MBA on the podcast. That's awesome. That's super exciting, and I'm super happy for you guys about it.
Thank you.
While we get close to doing the wrapping, I never actually got to ask you, like, how big's your guys' team? Are you in growth mode? What are you looking for? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so full time we're about, swaying between 15 to 20 people. We definitely
Very cool.
have part-time members as well. The team is all fully decentralized. For our Web2 entity, though, we have heavy presence in Asia, with offices in South Korea, Thailand, and Philippines. So,
Very cool.
we could, yeah.
Nice, man. That's awesome. All right. Before I let you go, is there anything else you wanted to say? I mean, that last speech was a knockout of the ballpark.
Nothing specific, but I think, you know, one thing that I have a high conviction of is that AI is here to stay. AI and crypto is definitely also a very, very new frontier. I think things like distributed computing is an amazing concept, and you know, in the next even in the next 1 to 2 years, we're going to see a lot of cool things happening, uh, and we are going to also see a lot of vaporware. So it's very important, although attention span is very short in this space. Be very cognizant of what you're putting your money into, and what people are promising, because it's difficult to shift through a lot of these things in the space when there's like 5 new projects coming out every day.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, and you can feel free to avoid it. As a CEO of an AI company that's at the forefront of using data and needing access to compute, and we discussed about traceability, decentralization, do you have a favorite or a couple favorite projects that are in the land of decentralized compute that you could say, hey, I recommend checking these people out?
Decentralized compute. I've talked to a lot of the big names, at least in Solana, right? Like, I've
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just another sort of, without saying too much, like, we're in pretty good relationship with most of them. Um, I think it'll come down to sort of the use case, is what I realized after talking to a handful of them, is that some have, let's say, mostly consumer type cards where it's good for inferencing, but not so good for training. Some have both. Some have more access to let's say independent data centers that have these higher performance cards. So I can't necessarily say that I have a favorite, especially because we haven't used any yet.
Okay, that's fair.
We'll probably start using it in probably later Q2, early Q3 of this year.
I'll
Yeah,
be
so
watching.
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
But the
Okay. Very diplomatic of you. I
yeah.
like that.
No, like one thing though, I really want these companies to succeed, but one sort of skepticism I have around distributed computing is like how competitive is it when it comes to latency? Because obviously, like if you are just using Amazon or Google and using a data center like that, they're very, very fast, and you can do a lot of things with a lot of without having to worry about speed and latency. But when it comes to distributed, like what's the availability going to be like, and what's the latency going to be like? Because if you're training, if your model is the more complex your model is, and the more data you're dealing with, uh, the the time it takes for training can go up exponentially based on the different
Mhm.
latencies. So it'll be really interesting to see. And I'm on the fence, or I'm on the side where I hope these things are very competitive with the data centers, because
Mm.
it's way better model in my opinion. But
It's a
it's
whole
to be
new
determined.
tri. It's a whole new trilemma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, all right. Before I let you go, Isaac, the one thing I like to ask my guests always is, over the past couple of years of building, when we were deep in the bear market, what was the thing that kept you sane? What kept Isaac going? Touching grass, lifting heavy. What is it?
I think so. Being in the Web3 space is pretty challenging. The swings of bull markets and bear markets are very severe. And a lot of the times I'm like, it's so much better to be in Web2 because you don't have to stress out about a lot of these things. But one thing that kept us going is like within crypto, one thing is for sure, and that's that perseverance is what separates the successful projects that stick around long term versus not. So we have, in the bear market, in the most recent bear market, we just heads down building and launch. And in the past few months, like we sort of feel that we're starting to get the recognition for the things that we built and launched and whatnot. So that plus just having that good work life balance in some sense. I know it's harder in Web3, and oftentimes like everyone's on crypto Twitter 24/7. But sometimes you have to have that digital detox in a sense, because once you get caught up in Twitter too much, it just becomes kind of crazy.
You are not wrong, sir. Well, thanks for coming on the Future Podcast. We appreciate your time, buddy.
Thanks for having me.